Bert, 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 Bert! Get him, yeah! Ron Bain was right. Ron Bain was right.
I'm feeling spry. Hey everybody, happy June 4th. It's Ron Bain with the Hunting Dog Podcast. I'm so excited I changed the way I said things. Do not skip. I'm going to fly through the sponsors to get to the crux of this episode and why we did this episode. So, as always, all my sponsors are the number one in their industry. I mean, think about that. My title sponsor, Onyx Hunt, there's nothing like it, nothing close. There's little bitty ones, same thing. Like Pike Gear, there's no upland clothing made, all in the USA, just like Pike is. Everything's sewn, assembled here. Every piece that they can procure and every piece of labor is done here in the States, which is exactly Boss Shot Shell's mantra. I was just at the Boss plant last Friday. We had an open house. Ty Webster came in. The extremes that Brandon goes through to use everything that he can source from America, there you go. I mean, Walton's right there, right in the middle of America. That's where they're located. They have everything but the meat and you, and all you need is their catalog. Gunner Kennels, we know they're made in America. Oh yeah. Well, that's not the theme of the whole podcast, although, it could be. Anyway, I'm trying to speed through these things. Garmin, you couldn't say that they're in America, but they are in America. Now, they're made everywhere, but they're global. I mean, you talk about that company. That company invests their hard-earned dollars in the Hunting Dog Podcast. You should invest your money in Garmin products. Boy, this is really commercial-like. I like it. It's all right. And when you need something from Garmin, you don't call them up direct. You go to W Hunting Supply, W, the letter U. That's where you get your Garmin stuff from. When you're feeding your dog, you get it from Purina, who makes Purina Pro Plan, and a whole lineup of other foods. If you have some fussy stomach or you need some salmon-flavored stuff, they've got it. If you want to go down that road, I just use Purina Pro Plan. That's all I use. That's it. And the only thing I put in my body, other than water, which is part of the mix, is Canine Athlete. That's not actually correct. It's Wilderness Athlete products for me, like Hydrate and Recover and Energy and Focus. But I got the same thing for my dog with Canine products. That's right. Go to Canine Athlete. If you're a Patreon patron, you can get a discount on that. You can get a discount on Gunner Kennels. You can get a discount on Walton's. You can sometimes get a discount on Pike, and you can always get a discount. Any listener can get a discount on Onyx HTP 20, but as I've said 100 times, it's probably on the back of a cereal box at this point. But hey, save the 20%, become an elite member, and with your elite membership, you will be able to view a whole bunch of the segments of the Upland Institute, which is it's easy to say it's the number one. It's the only one of its kind on the planet, which is kind of like a lot of stuff I do. And like the new dog I have, it's the only one of a kind I got on the planet. And I'm telling you that you've got a few months to train your dog, but don't be waiting until July and August, okay? All right, there's still going to be some nicer June days. Get yourself the Upland Institute, and if you're really smart, you'll either be a patron or you'll be an Onyx Elite member, and you will get the only deep discount in the world offered for that program. That's right. So let's get to look at that, 3 minutes and 40 seconds. That's not bad. This whole episode, it's with one of my favorite hunting buddies, favorite people, favorite dog training friends from NAVHDA for over 20-some years, Dave Utzinger. Now, typically Dave and I get a little sideways. We love to enjoy a toddy together, and we actually did, but I sent Dave a preview of Behind the Dog Film's first episode, and this is an episode we did with Legacy Kennels in Michigan, and I wanted his opinion of it. And I know Dave, he wouldn't sugarcoat it, and that's kind of what we're going to talk a little bit about this and that, but we're going to kind of stay to the subject. And what I want to tell you about Behind the Dog Films, this is something that, in my knowledge, nobody in this world has done yet. It's kind of like a podcast, but it's video. Okay? And I know you're thinking, oh, Joe Rogan, his are videos. No, Joe Rogan's is a conversation that's taped audio and video. Okay? What we did is we interviewed a breeder that I also hunted with, went to their kennel, got pictures from their background, pictures from their youth, video from other hunting trips. We put this all together, and it's really, and you know me in education, I barely made it out of Chicago public schools, but this is educational and entertaining. And the beta test is on. You can, if you're listening to this by the time you're listening to this on Sunday, then you can go to BehindTheDogFilms.com and you can pay $4.99. And don't choke on your beer when I said $4.99. It's not $499, $4.99. And that gets you damn near an hour of entertainment. Now, I wouldn't listen to this in the car because, well, maybe if you got Apple Play, I guess maybe, can you actually watch video? I don't know. I don't have that on mine. But you got to sit down and learn and listen. It's a great thing. And what we're going to do, my editor, Matt Jorio, and I, we worked long and hard at this, had several trips to this facility, and we had just a dream, really a dream to get in depth with the breeders who bring us these dogs. Now, this series, and this is going to be a series, if you, my listeners, and all the other people we reach in the world, go ahead and say, you know what, I'll watch it. Yeah, yep, I'll invest that $4.99. I'm curious to see what they came up with, and we are going to cover if you people make this happen. This is the only way this is going to happen if you people make this happen. We are going to travel around the country interviewing the best breeders that we can find, and believe me, with all my years in NAVHDA, I know a bunch of them, and I have a bunch of connections that can help me find more. Anything from, well, we'll probably go out and see Mr. Ferris out in Idaho and talk about poodle pointers and get into the depth of that. And I've got a laundry list of people, some of them already on board, that if we can travel out and spend a short week with them and interview them and get pictures, pedigrees, video, it's like when you hear a good story, like, well, wouldn't that be great if I could see a good story? Not only that, we've got an extra feature coming up, and it's going to be about getting your dog ready for a water test. And this isn't for the people whose dogs just jump in the water, big deal. This is for a lot of you whose dogs, I don't know if I want to go into water. We spent last summer putting this together. That's going to be in this series. But more importantly, it's going to have content that is just flat out educational and flat out entertaining, all 50-50. I'm telling you, you'll hear Dave and I talk about it. I'm going to quit raving about it. I'm so proud of this project. I cannot tell you. I'm glad it's today. You know, we advertised the release of June 5th, but once you hear this, you should listen to the whole podcast, obviously. Don't stop what you're doing and then go watch it. But listen to this whole podcast, me and Dave, and then show us the love and support, and we're going to bring you the best dog content that's ever been created, and we're going to be looking for your input. We're going to be looking for those breeders that maybe you dealt with, maybe in another country. And we want to bring also a good chunk of, and I shouldn't say truth, but clarity to this whole process that we go through, whether we're the breeders or whether we're the buyers. Doesn't matter. There's a lot of minutia to it. And good Lord, me and Nancy Beth dived into it.
That's all.
Hey, guess what, Dave?
Yeah.
It says we can record now.
Okay.
Hey, everybody, it's Ron Bain with the Hunting Dog Podcast, but you already knew that because you hit the player button on your Spotify or iTunes. I got one of my favorite buddies over here, Dave Utzinger. And for those of you who just got your eyebrows up and got excited, no, Dave and I are not going to drink moonshine tonight.
Nope, not a drop of alcohol. None at all.
No, well, that's not true.
Okay.
You're drinking IPA, and I'm drinking water, basically. Purified brewed water. But this is all about the new series that you're going to see coming out this week, and it's called Behind the Dog, and it was a catalyst of making the Upland Institute. It was something I enjoyed that process, but I'm not a dog trainer, and Dave and I have probably a favorite common author by the name of Craig Koshik.
Yep, that
Right?
one too. Yep.
And Dave got Craig's book out when it came out, and I got it. In fact, I had to borrow your book. It's right
Yeah,
out
I
there.
used to have that book,
You-
but I don't.
It's still on the
It's
shelf.
here. It's by
here.
my grouse maps.
No, you told me to give them to somebody.
Oh, that's right.
But anyway, Dave and I have always loved talking about the different breeds. We make fun of them. We admire them. We talk about you've had dogs run in NAVDA in the German system. You've had a bunch of different breeds.
Yep.
And what the Behind the Dog was, I mean, the title is kind of self-explanatory.
Well, not really, because I was completely confused. It was
That
not
was-
what I thought
that
it was
was
going
your-
to be behind the dog, but then it totally took a turn for
And
the
that
right
was one of
direction.
your wife's questions.
Yeah.
What is this? What is this supposed to be about? Before you make me watch it.
I thought it was about breeding, but it turns out it wasn't.
It's about a lot of things. But this series is going to highlight breeders and breeds, and not always in that order, but all the different things we do with our dogs. Eventually, it'll be we'll probably do some of these on testing, on trials, might be agility dogs someday. Who knows? But I'm a dog nut. You're a dog nut. And a couple weeks, 3 weeks ago, I sent you a copy of this to watch.
Yep.
And I know Dave is not going to pump sunshine up my skirt. I said, Dave, tell me what you think about it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I let you know, and I thought it was great. Not just saying that. And in fact, I shared it with my wife. It was one of those things that
Your wife watched it.
she did. I watched it myself to give some feedback, and then I thought, well, this isn't just about hunting. It explored a lot of the different ideas with this particular breeder, and I thought, usually when I watch a show about dogs, I'll end up telling my wife, hey, let's, I don't know, turn this channel on about hunting or whatever sporting event they're doing, and then that's about the time she goes and binge watches something else in her room and leaves me alone.
Yeah.
This time around, I used her with a beta test and said, hey, can you take a look at this, and we'll watch it again together.
Yeah.
And I asked her when it was done, I said, would you watch this again? She goes, yeah, I'd actually watch this with you. I enjoyed it. And she got to see puppies, so that was pretty critical.
Well, there's puppies in it, for sure. You got to wait till the end of it. But I got to turn that off so that doesn't happen again. Oh, crap. I'm not editing. I refuse to edit, Dave.
No problem.
I've had enough.
Do you want me to call you real quick?
No. No, I just like you to help me find a
Hey, Ron, turn your phone off.
thing. There we go. All right. So anyway, yeah. So I sent you that to watch. I'm glad you got your wife to watch it. In fact, I sent it to probably 24 people, and in a couple of in particular, I said, "Hey, I know your wife hunts with you, so I want her to watch it." Now your wife doesn't hunt with
She
you.
doesn't hunt at all.
But
She helps with the dogs. One sleeps in bed with her.
she lives with 2 to 3 hunting dogs.
Yeah, we call it 2 1/16. We have a very small terrier.
I didn't.
Yeah, it doesn't quite qualify.
Okay.
But 2 1/16 dogs. She sleeps with
That's-
one.
Right.
And she absolutely loves dogs. So it was kind of nice. And I think she anticipated that it would be all about hunting, and it was not. I
No.
mean, she learned a lot from it. I did too. I don't mind even admitting that.
Right.
I was floored at some of the things that I could glean off of this. And I'm not just saying that.
Yeah. Well, when this is like one of these classic things. We wanted to do something with a camera and a good editor and a bit of a mouthpiece being me. A lot of people have told me, like, how come you don't record your podcast? I had one guy ready to set up a couple GoPro cameras in here, and when I got somebody in the kennel, you could be like a little Joe Rogan thing,
Yep.
But just seeing you and me talk, that's an audio experience. I mean, really.
Well, we've tried it with video, and
That
it's
was-
pretty hard to watch.
Right. We did. You're right.
Not my
We did-
greatest moments
we
in
did
history.
a Facebook Live podcast about 4 or 5 years ago.
When my kids Google search me, it's just not a proud moment as a dad sometimes.
It was called the moonshine moment. Well, it's your fault. You brought the moonshine over.
I don't know. It's delicious.
But so the idea was like people said you should film this, and I'm like, I don't want to film a conversation. A conversation could be listened to while you mow the lawn, drive the truck, jog, or whatever you do.
Sure.
And then when you do watch a podcast, if there is a podcast like Joe Rogan's that has the guest on it, I never watch it on YouTube unless it's like, I can't remember who we had, Randall Carlson on, some geologist. And I just like the way the guy talks. And I'm like, oh, so I'll put a little YouTube clip on it. But there was no way I was going to watch the whole thing.
Sure.
So, like, what's missing in the podcast world is if, like, when you and I are telling hunting stories from North Dakota, like when we were in Tyler's kitchen that time,
Oh, yeah.
right? Now, if somebody saw you behind Tyler pretending to roll the window down, and then we had video of you and him that morning, and then video of me and Pat waiting like prom dates without a date. If we had video that backed up, how hysterical would that be?
Funny, but I might be in jail.
That's a different story.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
But so the idea was like capture the thread of a podcast, but overlay it with a ton of video, pictures, whether it's a picture from when we're telling a story. When you're telling me a story about the first time I looked at your dog's teeth at the NAVHDA test, remember?
Yep.
Now, how priceless would that be if somebody could watch that happen?
Well, you could have seen me fall apart and want to cry.
So that's kind of where
It is priceless.
This whole thing started, and we didn't know where it was going to go. We knew we had to start with a tabletop talk, like we had to start with a conversation, and we also knew that Nancy Best's credentials in the show world and her hunting is, I'd say, almost equal. Right? She may show more than she hunts because hunting season's only so long, and you can always get so much time off. But finding someone like her that hunts and pays attention to like the whole dog. It was almost like the title of, instead of Behind the Dog, at one point it was The Whole Dog.
Sure. Well, and what a unique perspective.
Yeah.
So often we watch something only about hunting or hunting dogs, and we get these preconceived notions about how to train or what to do. And then you see somebody that's equally in the hunting world as they are in the show world. And I almost shudder to bring this up, but sometimes at the clubs I belong to, and myself included, I'm incriminating myself, you kind of scoff at the show.
Oh, sure.
Like, they don't really hunt their dogs. They might put one bird out. They call it good.
Right. They might get a junior hunter on it and then get a bench champion, and they got the second coming of
Yeah, like the ribbons you used to put on the wall behind you.
Right.
Just anyways. Well, little throwback there.
I did get.
So,
I couldn't clean them. They got too dusty.
oh, did they? Yeah, I understand. But with all that said and done, as I watched, some of the tips and tricks that she shared with the group were unbelievable.
Right.
I mean, I wish I would have known those things.
Yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating.
And this is the things that this breeder does with her puppies for all these weeks before you ever get your dog.
Ages and stages, right? I mean,
Yeah.
4 weeks old. Who would have thought you're doing these things with it? And then sometimes I think some of the breeders out there, they have all good intentions, but if they knew to do these things at that age, it'd be incredible.
We'd have better dogs.
And by the way, it has zero to do with birds.
No way.
Can you imagine that?
Is it impulse control?
Maybe.
But and what I liked about talking with her was, now this is one breeder, but there's a lot of it edited out that I threw in my tidbits of conversation. But I bred up through the letter R. What is that in alphabet? 20? No,
Can't count that high.
me neither.
I didn't wear my sandals.
A-F-G-H-A-L-Q-R-S, like 17 litters of dogs.
Sounds good.
From some short hairs, wire hairs, and some of them goofy.
Some mixed.
and recently a dandy mixed breed we just came up with. But I remember when people would call me up and they'd say, "Oh, I got your name off the internet. And you got Broncos, and we've been wanting a Bronco." And I'm like, "Well, why do you want one?" And I would vet them. I would throw some questions at them. But 100% honesty here. I was interested in selling those puppies.
Sure.
I wasn't going to sell them to Charlie Manson, but Charlie's cousin, maybe,
Yeah.
right? And to get her insight on what she goes through, I guess would you call it a vetting process?
I would.
Or a selection process?
And not to mention, if she can't sell it, she won't. I mean, she's not. I didn't get the vibe from her that she's looking to sell you a puppy.
Right. Right.
She'd rather keep it than have it go to the wrong home or the wrong person.
Right. And then the work that breeders do, and this is not the first time anybody's ever said this, because I've met tons of them over the years, around the country. How many times you heard let the breeder pick the pup for you? Now you had a situation, you had first pick of a dog.
Oh yeah, you're gonna make me bring this up to everybody.
Well, you did. Now this particular litter were all the same color, right?
Yeah, we should start over at the fact that we weren't sure whether we should buy into the idea of the breeder picking the pup for you.
Well, that's right.
And then I debunked my own theory by the last pup that I got. Because the breeder picked 3 that should go to my family.
Right. And she talked to you, she
interviewed and friends of friends, people that have been on your podcast before that train dogs at a high level, like Nick Moe. She runs in that whole circle.
Right.
Picked the pup
so
for me.
you had it in.
I had it. Actually, the breed was picked for me. The breeder and breeder was picked for me.
Right.
It was a breeding we wanted. Mm-hmm. It was an outcross. And anyways, we got there with the family. All these pups are running around. They all have different color tags on them.
Different, yarn? Did they put collars or yarn around?
There were little tiny collars that red, purple, green, colors of the rainbow, so you could
Right.
identify which
Right.
one you were taking.
Right.
And she goes, "You got pick of the litter. You can have any pup you want, but I've interviewed you. I interviewed the people you know. I know
Right.
what you're going to do with this dog.
Right.
These are the 3 collars you should pick from."
Right.
We didn't take any of those dogs. None of them.
But if you were there by yourself, would you have?
I think so.
What happened? Well,
It was a family affair.
right. Mom and daughter.
Yep, mom and daughter said, "I want that one," and I can't. I think it was yellow or purple. She'd know. I tell you, if I called her right now, she'd know the color.
The color. Yeah.
And I believe the breeder even asked me, "You sure you want that one? I mean, it's your choice." And I'm thinking to myself, she's recommended those 3, but if Mama's happy, we're all happy. Now, ironically, this particular breeder chose not to keep that female anymore because the litter was an outcross. Brought the dog from Texas, and it didn't work.
Right.
But I have the most amazing house dog that will not hunt. And so where we were going with this is,
Right.
I don't know if I'd let a breeder pick a dog for me. Oh, wait a minute. They did. I didn't choose that dog, and I got the one that didn't hunt. And the rest of them are all in all kinds of master hunt stuff and HRC. And
I bet you the 3 that she showed you,
Probably.
red, yellow, and green, are probably all master hunters now.
And she asked me, she's like, "I can't believe that dog won't hunt. I mean, the rest of the litter is all just having success." And I'm like, "I'm sure."
A total outcross.
Yeah. And that happens. I mean, that isn't something that...
It's not a fault of the breeder, but
None.
if somebody came into that particular breeder and they said, "Yeah, I've always wanted a lab, I'm going to do a little hunting," she might go like, "Let's try this one."
She probably would have gave her the collar that I got.
Right, the one your wife picked.
Not the one that the breeder specifically said, "Pick
Purple
this
collar.
one."
So, yeah, what I liked about Nancy Bed, you get a pretty in-depth, and believe we had to bring this down to an hour, right? We talked for 2 hours at the kitchen table. That's why during the editing, you'll see me drinking Diet Coke, you'll see me drinking coffee, and then water.
See, I wasn't sure. I thought maybe it was gin and tonic, and then maybe a rum and coke, and then coffee at the end to get
I
better.
get what I drink. I was dead sober, but we can't worry about that part of editing. But I feel like if a person, I'm gonna give you a softball question. Like, one of the things you could learn from watching this is definitely not how all breeders think, but how I'm just gonna say how a good breeder thinks, and how a good breeder helps you in part of the process. It's not just and I've had it happen before where somebody was number 1, you got first choice. They come here and it's all about the markings. because they're Bracco puppies.
Yep.
They're all cutered into Dickens. Their ears are hanging down to the ground. They're like, oh, pick me, right? And they picked the one with the blaze and the spot. I didn't do any puppy vetting. Like, well, let's do a mental aptitude test. Or let's try putting them on a table and see how they, you know what I mean? I'm totally guilty. I don't think I've ever, well, I actually had one dog that I did have to give the guy his money back. He was a lawyer.
It happens.
He wrote a strong letter. And you know what that dog did? That dog went to my buddy Wade, who had a bunch of short hairs. And that dog got I think the first female Bracco Prize One utilities.
Well, did you send a picture and the information back to the lawyer and say sorry about
The
the
guy's son wrote a Christmas card to Bodie the dog
Oh, no kidding.
a year later and sent it to my address. And I felt so bad for this kid. He loved this dog, and the parents didn't want it. Anyway, point being, what you learn from like Nancy is like her thought process, and it's not like over what's the word? We're not saying like she's a selection Nazi.
Not at all.
It's more of a doing the best she can to match you. You still know it's a crapshoot. You get them at 8, 10 weeks old, they're still a crap. But they see things early.
And I think, at the end of the day, a very good breeder, which I've never been because none of my dogs turn out, but that's another story.
They'll hunt. Well, no, the last one.
They do have a reputation that they want to uphold, and they don't want to put the wrong dog in the wrong house. And I get that. Before, I just thought, well, I'm paying the money. I picked the breeder. I should be able to pick the dog.
Yeah.
After watching this, I might change my mind because I shouldn't say not just watching this, but it brought to fruition what happened to me that I wasn't smart enough to pay attention to.
And again, I think we're, the fact that we can push an Amazon button and get something here tomorrow, this is not going to teach everybody, but if you find the right breeder, I would put more stock in letting them help you find that dog. 100%.
Absolutely. Yep.
Now, if there's 8 puppies and you're 8 on the list, guess what? You're going to get the 8th puppy. But if it's a strong breeding and there's performance in the Siren Dam, you're probably getting a good dog.
Yep.
I mean, technically, you know what I'm saying? Because you could get first pick, as you did.
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
And if the dog's like, when's dinner and where's the channel changer?
I'm almost of the belief I could just get last pick and still get that too. Some of us are Charlie Brown in life.
Your Christmas tree.
Yep.
It just doesn't look good. So.
Ever. And in fact, I got one good dog and she's probably all bummed out. How did I end up here?
I'm with the Utzinger family.
Man.
I drew the short straw.
I'm supposed to be on a podium somewhere.
I've been talking to my brothers and sisters. And they're all still laughing. I got the Utzingers. But no, I really enjoyed and the way it turned out. Like when you see the hunting stuff in the beginning, we kind of introduced how we met each other, and turns out they're 30 miles from me in North Dakota. They were hunting for 3 weeks, and I said, "Boy, I've got this cockamamie idea." And it was between me and Matt, my partner. And Matt said, "Boy, if we can get an interview with him later and do everything we're planning with this Behind the Dog series,"
Sure.
He said it would be great to have some B-roll of you hunting with them. Well, I wasn't hunting with him; I was carrying a camera, But literally, I was hunting with him. I watched birds, I watched dogs point. I watched dogs retrieve. I watched dogs flush. I watched people miss. It was a hunting trip. I just happened to have a camera in my hand. And I think like going forward, I this is always going to have. I mean, the logo of the series is a man standing with his pointer and a shotgun. We're always behind the dog, right? I mean, you and I are sometimes behind the 8 ball, but
I've had a few dogs that hunted behind me. They were always a pleasure.
well, Itty actually was behind me, so she would be behind the.
That'll
hunter.
be the next series.
Behind the hunter.
The dog behind the hunter.
Right. But give me some critique, a little critique, because I was very proud of what we put together, but I knew that you would be, like, you wouldn't tell me you liked it if you didn't like it.
Yeah. and so he said, "Give me critique." He puts me on the spot. That's not right.
Or not critique, but some of the highlights, the things that you liked about it the most.
I'll tell you right now, and I don't want to be a spoiler alert, but I'll just use the imprinting, to use her terminology,
Yeah.
was unbelievable, and we touched on it earlier.
Yeah, we kind of went off on a rabbit. Yeah.
So what I'm used to seeing, Ron, what you're normally in is a hunting situation, and this was a situation that relates to hunters, but it also relates to other people. And it kind of gave me a connection, and I'm not trying to be nice about it. I actually was going into it thinking, I just want to see Ron drink beer and have a good time, because that's all I do with you.
Because that's what we do, and that's what most of my podcasts
I mean, I'm a very serious hunter and dog trainer.
Oh,
But,
yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
and I didn't realize that some of the pieces that I was missing as a hunter and training my dog that the show world has been doing for years.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was just floored at it, because I think back to when I had short hairs. If I'd have known those little pieces, I wouldn't have had some of the problems that I had later in life.
Right.
And that was kind of mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
I'm not giving you credit for that.
No,
I'm giving
no.
her credit for that.
Right.
Just to
'Cause
be very clear.
You know, I've never applied it.
You turned the microphone on, and she was a star for a minute for me. You know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, not only does she understand the dog's conformation and why, there is a reason why there's a conformation standard for all breeds,
Oh, absolutely.
right? I mean, you had the German dogs. Now, they were all German Shorthairs, but that's a Kurzhaar Club.
Yep.
But it's all judged under that same, what is it? Not VDDGNA, but what's the name of it?
Well, it was the NADKC.
That's it, NADKC. They have conformation.
They do.
These are some of the huntingest dogs
I would agree.
that have been bred, I don't want to say bred mercilessly, but bred strategically. What's the word I'm looking for? You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's bred with a purpose, and they even, they'll even boar hunt with them and things like that.
Right. They have to have this dog not just have all the performance,
Correct.
but they also insist on the conformation.
Oh, absolutely. I would say they're maybe a touch easier than the VDD, but both very strict.
Right.
There's some.
And it comes even to the height of a dog.
Yep.
If it's not square, or let's say the standard says it should be square or slightly longer than, they will stamp "do not breed" on these dogs' papers when they go to a Zook show.
I promise you, they stamp "do not breed" on these Offentoggles.
Oftentimes with the pedigree.
Oh yeah, no, that's where they stamp it. First they take it, then they send it back to you in the mail with perforated "do not breed."
So
I'll show it to you sometime. It's really incredible.
I never got to see your speeding ticket for the dog world before.
Yeah, I'll show you sometime.
But that point, what you made about and you said it right earlier too. We always say the confirmation people, And granted, there's a bunch of them that don't hunt, and maybe they don't have hunting breeds. I personally feel, and I really do, and it's happened with the Bracos. It was a lot of every year they had a Braco gathering, right? And they would have Italian judges come in, and they always did a hunting test and a show test. Now, this wasn't on our papers. They didn't stamp. They weren't allowed to stamp "do not breed." They probably could have and should have, but they do care about the build of the dog.
Yeah, it's interesting because the one female I had with the extra teeth. Let's pretend she didn't have extra teeth.
Right.
When she was also judged, they picked her up, and it looked like from all the hard running and hunting I did with her that she had wore the hair down on her chest and her stomach. Now the stomachs aren't too hairy, but the chest.
Right. The front.
Yeah. However, I had one confirmation judge look at it after the teeth problem, and he said that's an issue too. That's not from grass. That's not from hunting too hard. And I'm like, man, if you just want to sink this ship.
So that's like saying I'm bald, and it's not because not because I wore a hat too long.
Well, and there was never. I mean, we don't want to offend anyone. There was never a question about whether or not the dogs could hunt.
Right.
Nor was there ever a question about whether you should own that dog and hunt it.
Right.
It was more about form and function in the marriage, being together. And I was telling Ron earlier, I went. They had a couple German judges in town, and I had to drive to Wisconsin from Michigan and get judged because you can only, there's a certain window for confirmation. I had to get my confirmation done. They were there.
Yeah.
And my dog had a little bit of what they called a cat back, to where it's a little hunched. Mm-hmm. Now, they stretched my dog out, and she had a flat line, but from day one, her top line had that hump in it. Now, when they helped me stage her, stack, yeah.
Yep.
It flattened right out, so they were good with her, except afterwards the judge told me in his heavy German accent that from day one when she was a puppy, I should have stretched her out and stacked her. I mean, he was explaining to me...
Which is what you see...
Spoiler alert, we won't go too far into it, but...
Spoiler alert, which is what you see Nancy Beth be a master at.
And that's what I was saying earlier, I'm like, where was that when I was raising my short hairs?
Well, where was it at? It wasn't there because everybody had to get your dog in front of a bird first.
Right.
And
boy, did we get that dog in front of birds. Never had a problem finding birds.
No, that was not
Pointing was a little issue at times.
But would you agree with the judges? Like, just because your dog had performance, and somebody I remember you said earlier before we hit record, somebody said, that dog's got more prey drive than it needs, basically.
Yeah, Scott told me that.
Scott, yeah, a good friend of ours, Scott.
He told me it's just too much. He goes, I've never said a dog had too much prey drive until now. There's too much.
But that doesn't mean you should have bred it, right?
It was very clear it was on the off and toggle.
Well, right, because...
I didn't even have the rights to it.
Because you would have started World War III between Germany and Michigan.
Well, and she was predominantly white, which that means they knew that there's a lot of long tail in that dog, and they don't like people knowing that either.
They don't like white.
No, they don't.
I mean, as white as they are, they don't like white on a dog.
I was actually told that one time by the breeder, the original breeder.
Really?
In his heavy accent, Willie said to me, he goes, we don't like those dogs because they know we've got too much of those pointing breeds in there. I'm like, really? He's like, just move on. Pretend we didn't say that.
Next subject.
The 40s were a wild time.
Well, my first short hair, Queenie, I'm telling you, if you could have glued a tail on her, she'd look more like a pointer than she did a short hair.
Probably head and all.
Head and all. The ear set, and that goes back to what we're talking about, this. Now, no one's going to watch this film or purchase this film and come out of here an expert. But I think they're going to get the reason, like, why we're kind of making jokes about this. We are literally in America, so much is like, well, there's nothing wrong with my kid. Nothing wrong with my dog. My dog hunts. Your dog hunts. My first German short hair I bred, I saw a dog down the street, literally on Riley Thompson Road. Stopped. Guy was out. Dog he had a little horse paddock. I said, do you hunt your dog? He said, oh, yeah, I grouse and woodcock. And I said, you want to breed it? That was my vetting process, Now, that was a long time ago, but I'm not that much better. And listening to Nancy Beth go through the health testing, too.
The health testing was incredible. And
yeah,
the fact that, you find out what questions you should ask somebody if you're looking at
That's
a dog.
That's true, too.
And I don't think we're snubbing our nose at people that don't do these things. It was just a very, very good, interesting conversation that the two of you had about what to look for and what to ask. And we all know the cheapest part of buying a dog is buying the dog.
Yeah, 100%.
Even if it's free, it's the cheapest part.
It's the cheapest over time.
And sometimes not even about the dog. It's a new truck, the new shotgun, the boots, the whole nine. I mean, the cheapest part's getting the dog.
Pat.
And Margarita Pat.
He still gets notices from Cabela's.
Yeah, you need to spend your points. We opened another store.
Probably should explain that story, but anyway. So I know you kind of touched on it, and being you and me, we always wander off and start giggling. When we go out into the kennel, in Nancy's kennel, it's kind of like, it's like the whole podcast, or whatever we call this, the video podcast, this whole film, it all changes from conversation her and I having to, like, here's somebody who knows what she's talking about with the structure of a dog.
I thought it was incredible, too, how many dogs were free roaming in her kennel. And there was no, like, growling, beating on each other. I mean, you can't stage that.
No, you can't, because we've been...
Every Wednesday night is Namda night over here, and you can't stage that no matter how hard you try. There's always one.
There's no way that she's going to have a talk with those dogs and say, look, Ron and Matt are coming over to film. I don't want any fights today. No. And I think that comes to that being that breeder that, like, you wash that stuff out. If you see it,
Yep.
you wash it out, you stomp it out, and if you need to, it's almost like, this isn't, I shouldn't even say it. I wish I would have asked her that if she's, because I was around her dogs hunting in North Dakota, and they were sweethearts. And they, let's be honest, how many people have said German Shorthairs are wound up like a 3-day clock?
Well, they say that, but rarely do you find the aggressive ones. There is the anomaly.
There's
but
the
you don't-
anomaly.
yep.
So they're not typically aggressive. But I've also never seen like 20 of them together and not any,
Yeah,
puffing and puffing and tiptoeing around.
I would have thought there's like the cartoon. What is it? I don't know. The Little Fish, the Disney film, and all the seagulls are going mine, 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 mine. That's what I envision a 20 short hairs in a location
Right.
doing. Not that at all.
No, it was like free range chickens. They all got along. Nobody was pecking the feathers off.
It was
each other's.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, I have 2 1/16, and that doesn't happen at my house. So
Let's talk about it because you've got some other notes here. Because again, you were kind enough to do the beta test and watch it and let me know what you think. But when you saw how she handles, we took it from
yeah,
I think it was a
I almost
4-month-old dog.
again, spoiler alert.
Right.
So Jen, that's my wife. She thought it was absolutely amazing the order she did it in.
Right.
It's one thing when you see somebody take it from Genesis to the end.
Right.
But when you see them, yeah,
she
she
started with a bigger dog
absolutely.
and showed you what you can do, and then she went to a 12-week-old, then an 8-week-old.
It was
And then-
almost like, I can't believe this is happening. She keeps going back.
They keep shrinking,
How does this happen?
and then she could get the same behavior. And I should clarify this because people are going to want to watch it. Obviously, I would hope so. But what we're talking about is her imprinting what Justin calls when he gets a dog over for it's not woe training, but it's an impulse control. It's what the show people do called stacking. You kind of fluff the dog up, you move his feet, you stroke the tail up, you get his head up, and I didn't even know that you could do that with an 8-week-old dog, let alone a 4-week-old dog. A 4-week-old dog's eyes open 2 weeks before that day.
Yeah, I'm going to let Ron decide what he shares, but I'm telling you right now, there is one piece of this, and
No, I know what you're talking
when
about.
you see it,
Right.
it's like an aha moment. Like, I can't believe I haven't done this with every single dog.
Every single dog.
I don't
I've
care
owned.
if it's a house dog, a pointer, a flusher.
doesn't
It
matter.
doesn't matter at all. I would have done that with every single dog I ever had.
Exactly. And that technique that she does is not a mystery. It's been done for a long time, but not by the hunting crowd.
Well, it's because we wouldn't have known. We were too busy scoffing, saying they don't hunt. they
We're
don't
too
do
busy
this.
asking anybody got pigeons?
Yeah, who's got pigeons? Maybe a chucker or two? I'm going to tie my dog up to the tailgate and throw pigeons till it's steady.
Yeah. Right. And you know what? My dog's always steady when he's tied to the tailgate.
It's a great idea.
Because we have spent a lot of nights out at NAVDA over the years, our NAVDA grounds. Not so many in the last few years because you're a little busy,
Well, I got labs now, too. People scoff at me.
They do not.
Yeah.
We had.
It's too hot for those beautiful animals.
It's hot for anything right now. But yeah, what you can learn from her, like if you just took like the highlights, like how to approach a breeder, how to let a breeder help you, and then it's almost like if what you learned from her with her hands on with these puppies and her technique for making them do what they do, you'd almost want to go to your, like if let's say you were looking for a new dog, Dave's gonna be knocking on the door at 4 weeks. Hey, can we start stacking this? Can we start stacking this dog? And they're gonna look at you like, what?
I'm going to go impress them. I'm going to just grab that puppy and put it up there and show them a little trick, and they're going to be like, wow, that guy's like the dog
He's the
whisperer.
dog whisperer. Yeah, that a lot of people have said that too. They like I did not know, literally did not know you could get something out of a 4-week-old puppy. I mean, they're still nursing. All they're doing is they nurse and they poop. That's it. That's what all these puppies do. but that's not all she does with them.
No, and it's very it's pretty impressive. And I'm not. I keep saying this because I came here to drink beer.
Well, I'm on my fourth, and you're only on your second.
Well, sorry, I'll catch up. Although yours is a little more watered down than mine, but
Right,
that's
yours
fine.
has alcohol in it. Mine's Miller Lite.
But seriously, Ron, I've watched it 3 times, and with age, I'm starting to learn a few things. First time I watch it, I listen, but I'm not sure I hear what people are saying. So the second time, I start to hear what they're saying, not just
Yeah.
listening. And then the third time around, the section when you're in the kennel with her with the pups,
Yeah,
that was very fun for me because rarely do you get to see people work with pups
right,
exclusively, and I'm talking young pups.
right.
Watching her hands and what she's doing because I want to mimic that with my next puppy.
Right.
And like we talked about earlier, I get it's a show quality is what they're talking about.
Right.
But there's not one, especially if you have a pointing dog, but a flusher, any of them would benefit from them. But just going into WOA training, if you started with that from the beginning.
Well, it really is the beginning of WOA training.
Oh,
But
you're
you
right.
don't-
That's
you
a better
don't-
way to say
You
it.
don't name it.
And it's zero language.
Exactly.
It's
your
just
hands. It's your hands on the dog, and all of a sudden, I guess technically, if she wanted to name it by the time they're 8 weeks old, she could. Now, this is not WOA in the classic sense of stop moving WOA, but it already teaches the dog impulse control. That when my owner's hands are on me, and my owner can be the breeder for 8 weeks, and then it's going to be you the rest of the other 12 and a half years, that this dog will let you, I'm saying fiddle with it basically, like
Yep.
move its feet around. And the other one, I know you had a note on there, we have graphics in there. When we start talking about conformation, and Nancy Beth talks about,
I'm not stealing your stick here. I'm not.
no, oh, that's perfect, because these damn twist tops don't make that nice noise.
Okay.
Which, is that the same one?
Is it? Oh, no, that's the Black Rocks, the My Kiss.
Kiss My, what is it? Let me see.
That one's a 7.5.
Ooh, that's going to be.
That's another IPA. You're just going to struggle.
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. Boy. I got to go get a Widowmaker out of the cooler. When you, like you said, when you watch what she does with puppies, I won't think you'd be behind the 8 ball at 8 weeks. But boy, if you could visit your breeder and get hands on the puppies like she does, you've got to have a calmer dog. You have to.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And even I don't want to spoil too much, but even the
No, we can spoil
confirmation
it because people got to
the confirmation traits with the feet and what I really liked about it. And I'm not a Segway guy, but
Yeah.
we look at test scores to pick it. A lot of your listeners, I'm
Yeah.
sure, look at test scores,
All the time.
or they talk to people at their grounds. They're training with these dogs, and they're just like, I'm getting a puppy out of that litter.
Right.
At least that's what I did.
Yeah.
But I never understood it from the breeder perspective. Because like you said, some of these breeders, they're $1,500. That's usually the first thing that comes out of the mouth is how much they're going to be. And I've already sold 7 or 8, so you better get on it.
Yeah.
But to actually hear the other perspective of it from their shoes,
Yeah.
of at least what I'm going to call a caliper breeder that she is,
Right.
or they are. She has a husband, so I don't want to
Right, right.
alienate him. But
And I am sure there's dozens of breeders like this, but we wanted to highlight the ones that are like this.
correct.
There's no way I'm going to say that she's the only breeder in the country that shows and hunts her dogs. Obviously, that's not a true statement. But I picked this up with the Broncos. So we went to Kansas. It was actually the Glorious 12th, which is what they have in England for the grouse opener. Mm-hmm. The 12th of November the 12th of September in Scotland, but the 12th of November in Kansas is the quail opener.
Okay.
So we had the Bronco gathering in Chinook, Kansas. And we had, like I said, the Italian judges come over, and we had all these big, dopey, long-eared dogs. And the 4 dogs that the judges picked were all the ones that were hunting. And in confirmation, it was the same 4 dogs. Now,
I didn't even know they hunted. That was impressive. No, I'm just
exactly.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. People know I have a thick skin about long-eared dogs, and I'll tell you that one over there. That one don't hunt.
That's funny.
But she likes to stray.
Yeah, you have that.
I have taken up some of what I saw from Nancy Beth with that puppy. I did, like we did in Upland Institute, I've done the door work, impulse control, wait to be fed. All those things make a difference. But those are kind of like the learning to sit tricks. You know, waiting at a door, waiting to be fed. Those are impulse controls.
I would stack first.
Thank you.
And it'll make the rest of that go a whole lot easier.
Because the dog's like, no pressure, but like, oh my God, you're going to make me stand here. And you mentioned the graphics. We should touch on the graphics. So when she's explaining the front end and the back end and the angulation,
Oh, those are great.
the graphics pop up on the side of it. So
When you're saying graphics, it's actually the front and the back and the side of a dog and what it's supposed to look
right,
like. And
an artist rendition.
Yep.
So, and with the parts identified, like if I said, "Where's the dog's hock?" You're like, "Hey, it's somewhere on the back leg."
hey, I'll tell you what's funny. So Jen's watching it, and they show the back side of the dog with it hocked in. She's like, "Hey, that's what Gracie looked like." And I'm like,
Well, you mentioned that.
well, I told you she was from when I had her at the show, but Jen never knew that. She wouldn't have even known what that term is. But the minute the graphics up, she's like, "Hey, that's what Gracie looked like." And I'm like, "Yeah, that was our girl." Rest in peace.
Look at you, and you made a typical Dave comment, which you know I'm as thick-skinned as they come. You said like, we're talking about your daughter blowing her knee out,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And girls' legs are built one way and guys are another. And you said, well, in your case, your knees go out.
Little bowed.
Do you think I would have made a good runner, Dave?
Oh, maybe. Because you had desire.
Well, that's how people breed,
Hey,
right?
there's something good in there.
They ignore. Like if you see a dog that, how many dogs have you had that when they run past you, they scare you, or you hear them coming like a quarter horse?
Well, the older I get, they all scare me when they run past.
Yeah,
But I know what you're talking about. They run hard.
You know that it's like they pound the ground, right?
Yeah, you almost want to, and it's not a fair analysis, but if you find the right pointer or setter, it's almost like they're just lightly, they could run all day, and you don't even hear them.
Right, it's their movement, and that comes from conformation. Doesn't mean it comes from conformation show ring, but it's the breeders saying, no, this is not a good build. This dog's going to wear out. This dog's going to pound the ground hard. And I've had dogs, I swear to God, on a dry day with no wind, I could hear that dog come boom, boom, boom. I've had other dogs like looking at my watch or my Garmin like, where's the dog? It's behind. Didn't really want it behind me, but I didn't hear it coming.
My wife tells me the same thing about me walking around the house. She can hear me coming.
Well,
Do you think that's genetics or just obesity?
I think it's just appetite.
Oh, okay, I got you. Thank you for
'Cause you're
that.
not naturally obese.
Oh, aren't I?
Hey, you know what? This is a rabbit hole. I went in for a CT scan last year, and I got on the scale. And I mean, my buddy Roof says I got on the scale, and I got a new audio scale, and it says, hey, one at a time. But so he wrote in my report, obese. I'm like, I'm not obese, but apparently, by standards, I was. So.
You can fix that, man. You just tell them like I do. I tell them I'm 7'6". It's all perspective. You're reading the chart backwards.
I identify as a tall person.
Yeah. All those years of med school and you can't read a chart?
I identify as a well-built performance dog.
And by the way, I keep my lab skinny and my short hair's fat. You know what I'm saying? I got to keep up to them.
You got to slow the short hair down, and you got to keep the lab from getting fat.
Yep.
No, I really appreciate you watching it. I knew that you would like especially. I think the whole thing's entertaining and it's really informational more than entertaining. But I know people are going to like her analysis, her explanation, and her techniques. What she does with her puppies. If you got a puppy from her, you got a leg up. And I'm not trying to. She doesn't need customers. She got.
She wasn't selling pups.
No, she's not. You're right.
No.
You're 100% right. She was just showing what she does. That, they are not like looking for customers, and I almost feel bad because they're going to be getting calls, but.
Well, I think, too, the nice thing about it is, that's an hour's worth of content. I think I can share that with the listeners. And it's not an hour's worth of content with a bunch of commercials in the middle of it or anything else. I don't know what you're going to do when you release it, but it's an hour.
Right.
And the nice thing about it, I thought about it, is I watched the whole hour, and then I watched it the whole hour again, and with my wife. But if somebody wanted to watch 15 minutes at a time, once they buy it, they can watch 15 minutes, and then they can watch another 15.
Right.
They can... because
Right.
you own it.
Yeah. And I think, you and I make fun of a lot of hunters we hunt with. We make fun of a lot of friends that we hunt with because we make fun of people.
Yeah, I really don't have any friends. I'm making fun of myself, but I make up names to...
You're self-deprecating. That's what it's called, Dave. Self-deprecating.
I'm not educated enough.
It's a big word and I can't spell it, but I know what it means. But I would like to think, especially if you're new, you've had dogs for what, 25 years?
I think so. Yeah.
25, I've
Yep.
known you a long time. You found it interesting and educational. For somebody who is thinking about their first dog, or maybe their second, if you don't pick up some nuggets from that, I'd be shocked.
Well, not only that, if you knew nothing about dogs, watched it, and then went to a puppy day somewhere, you'd look like the puppy whisperer for just a second.
You were like, that dog's not built good. That dog's got no front end. That dog's got his chestnut down to his knee.
Well, I think an open mind, too, because it's not... I mean this in a positive way. It's not the characteristic Ron that I'm used to seeing. I'm the guy that comes over, drinks beer, and then gets in trouble with his wife.
And half of my podcast, I'm drinking beer and I'm talking to people. We're telling hunting stories. But I kind of go back to what we said in the beginning, that Craig Koshik book.
Yep.
I would like this to almost be a video series as interesting as Craig's book. And you poured through that. How many breeds are in that book? There's shit.
Oh, a
40?
lot.
At least 40, right? Maybe more. And I remember when you got the book, hey, have you ever heard of the Blue Picard? I'm like, no.
Picardy Spaniel. I was going to get one. There's 3 people that are actually breeding those now in the United States?
Yes.
I was mind blown.
And my buddy from Mossberg is on the list for one of them.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. In fact, they wanted him to go to France and pick one up, but he's like, I sell Mossbergs. I don't have the flyer miles to go to France.
That's funny.
They wanted him to go to France because he's very serious. He's a very articulate person, and he actually passed on a litter because he thought he was going to get one this year. You know how it goes with breeding. Puppies that you only had 3 pups or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And there was an outcross litter, and the breeder, and that's another thing that Nancy Beth talks about. Good breeders share their information with other good breeders. It's like a network.
Yep.
Because they have to outcross from time to time, and they want the dog that's like their dog but not related to their dog. Kind of like we want husbands for our daughters when they grow up. We don't actually want them to marry just people like us.
Right. We actually hope they don't. Yeah.
We want them to outcross. In fact, we don't even want you to marry a German.
Yep. That is funny.
But God, I had a good thought. Where was I going with that? But like good friends of mine, I think Lisa Pure.
Yes.
She's a judge
Yep.
for us in the Detroit area. They've interbred together, their dogs, because they both know that they're both doing the same thing. On their selection of sires and dams, on their selection of people who are going to buy them, on their performance, and the same thing with Lisa. It's got to be built right. And I think we could, God, we just learned. We could learn a little bit from this.
We could, and so often in the hunting community, and I shouldn't pick on it. I'm sure all your listeners don't do this or participate in clubs this way.
But I bet half of them do.
Maybe.
Okay.
3 quarters.
Maybe 7/8.
We just don't look far enough out. I mean, when you can learn, I don't know. I'm not saying you'll do one this way, but if you pick some toy breed somewhere, there's a breeder that knows something that I can glean information off of.
Yeah.
When I started training, it was like the Knob to Green book, and there's nothing wrong with the Knob to Green
Right.
book. It's great.
All we had.
It was just a generic manual of,
Right.
hey, if you got the right German dog, this will work.
Yeah.
And look how far all the breeds have come today. We were
Yeah.
just talking about that earlier.
Right.
Back in the day, there might have been
Literally, the performance of the breeds is off the charts compared to what it was 20 years ago.
Yeah,
Let alone 40.
there was a select few breeds that were kind of a joke, if you would.
Yeah.
And now today, you start looking at them like, I could own one of those. They're kind of nice.
Your first one was the
Springer.
Springer, but that's the one that got the rage.
Yeah, he didn't technically have rage, they told me, but boy, did he get nasty in his end. Just other dogs, never to people.
Right. But it wasn't like the true like the Springer rage. Like
They'll go after everybody.
they go after the mailman. You.
Everybody. No, Pete just.
Why did you get a Springer the first time? I'm just curious. We're just.
Oh well, I wanted to get into bird hunting, and I went to Barnes and Noble and looked through a book because I didn't grow up in a hunting family
Right.
of what
nor
would
did
make a
I.
good hunting dog. So I did a lot of research on what was the right breed to buy here by just driving to the store one day and reading a book for 10 minutes, and then
Better than some people do.
I went down to a backyard breeder with my wife. Again, really, she's 0 for 2 for picking puppies. Now that I think about it, and I know I've shared this on another podcast, but we went into this farm, into this barn, and there were all kinds of animals, and they
Not just dogs.
not just dogs. We found it in the paper. Another great dog out of the paper. They open the door. This female comes out. She looks like she's had 20 litters in 1 year, and I know they only can have 2, but believe
Right.
me, looked rough.
She was maxed.
Yeah, and they were all following mom except one. I heard it yelping, was in the goat pen getting kicked all over. And that's the one we took home. And we named him Pete. That's how I picked my first bird dog. So fast forward to today, Jen's trying to convince me on my next dog needs to be a Springer, and we're going to name it Repeat, which just sounds like a disaster. You know what I mean? Just a disaster.
Let's name it Runaway.
Yeah.
Let's say my first pointer was a runaway dog. Hey, let's get another pointer and name it Run Faster.
Well, I told her I'm sure that breeder's still in business. We could probably get another one from there,
Probably has some Lhasa Apsus too.
Yeah.
So yours was like mine was a newspaper. Like there was no internet.
Nothing.
Like,
newspaper dog. Yep.
Yeah, or a magazine like a Gun Dog magazine.
He did have AKC papers, I think. It looked legit.
Right.
It was a photocopy.
Did he hunt good though?
Yeah, actually, he hunted well.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that was. It,
Well,
it
when
was
I met you though, you didn't have him.
yeah.
Was he still alive? Well, didn't you have this water spaniel?
Oh no, that was Craig. Craig had a water
Oh,
spaniel.
Craig had. That's I always
Never. And we've talked about.
Yeah,
I went to his water spaniel club and competed in the hunt test, and I won with my Springer. And you know what I won? A vest with a water Springer on the back. I'm like, what do I do with this?
I forgot that was Craig that had that.
Fortunately, it wasn't a schmedium, so I could give it away. That's my size.
Yeah, well, you're a double medium.
Yeah, if it wasn't a double extra heavy, it wasn't going to fit. But
What made you get your first short hair then? Because then there was enough time to do some research, and you've had some odd luck.
well, oh yeah, but we've talked about that before.
I know.
Honestly, I saw a couple of
But
really.
just listeners that haven't probably heard it, there's only 100 episodes. In
Again,
stock.
we were at our club, and I watched a couple of the guys that had the Kurtzars
Okay, so
were training in the field.
yeah.
And when I watched what they were doing with those dogs at the level that they were at, I'm like, I want one of those. Mm-hmm. And then, after fast forward 15 years of ownership, I'm like, I never want one of those.
One of those again in my life. And it wasn't because the dog was cowhocked.
Not at all. No,
Nothing to do with it.
no. Yeah,
It was just
fur,
for
porcupines.
Yeah,
It's a good time.
too much. I don't think the Germans would have ever done as much. What do they call that? Dispatching of non-game, right? Ground nesting robbers, skunks, raccoons, pot. I don't think the Germans would have developed that if they had porcupines in Europe.
No, Craig and I always used to say we're going to send a breeding pair over there for them of skunks and porcupines.
Put 'em on
Merry
Earth.
Christmas.
Yeah. Breed around this.
Yeah, good luck.
Breed around
It's
this.
a good time. But had I known to stack those dogs when they were younger, it might have helped.
You might have listened. Yeah.
Yeah, well, definitely one of them would have listened. I don't know about the other one.
What was the other one's name?
Gracie.
Gracie.
She was all liver.
Yeah.
Yeah, dark dog.
Great to see in the woods.
Yeah, it's super handy.
And the other one was so
Lucky
white.
for me,
The other
she
one
never
was-
stayed close enough to see her in the woods, so the color didn't matter.
The other one was so white the Germans didn't want her.
Yeah.
And the other one could have been a Green Beret. Yeah. Snuck up and.
Yeah, come to think about it, don't take my advice on anything when it comes to picking a dog.
I've never given your advice to anybody.
That's not true. If I look at one and say, don't pick that one, I wouldn't take that one either. That's coming from experience.
Well, we already know that Jen is not the person to bring with when you pick a dog.
Yeah, I'm kind of running out of options. I might have to go back to that whole idea of the breeder picks your,
Well, your T-shirt says you sleep around. Maybe you'll have.
It is a great shirt.
Love that.
Yeah,
Love
aren't you
that
jealous?
T-shirt. I am. I want that shirt.
Yeah, it's got my little camper on it. My
Camper,
wife bought it
tent,
for me.
Pine tree. I sleep around.
Yeah. And that's actually, behind the dog, that's what I thought you were inferring. But it turns out that wasn't it at all.
No.
Had it all wrong.
Well, David, I appreciate you. Anything else on your you made some notes. I was quite impressed that.
Well, I had to
anything
make
that-
notes because I have this tendency to drink too much and forget what I was going to say, so I didn't.
Especially when it's 7% beer.
Yeah, well, I got a little nervous. Haven't been on in a while. I didn't want to mess this up for you, Ron.
Well, the next time we'll just do a hunting recap, like our normal silliness. But
No, I'm not bringing
All right,
notes. for
here's a
that.
question for you.
Yeah.
Like we did. We're not going to do every episode of this. We're not going to try to do a cookie cutter of what we did with Legacy Kennels.
Okay.
Hopefully, any breeder we have, we can schedule around the litter of pups because everybody loves puppies in a little video, But I want to find the breeders that are trying to bring more to the table because, like, they're that passionate about the breed that they'll make them Scott Goldman
Oh,
cut the team. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what football team doesn't cut players, right?
right.
People, and you've heard her say, and you've heard other breeders say that dog's a good dog, but it's I'm cutting it from my team.
Well, you just had that on one of your other podcasts with a gentleman that breeds
Josh,
labs. He
Josh
said-
Miller.
Josh said he had one of the greatest labs of his entire life. It was aesthetically beautiful. It did
Yeah.
everything right, but it was just not quite right, and it killed him. So it just ate him to pieces. He put it to one of his friends.
It was like dropping something early or something.
early. He wants a natural retrieve to hand without force breaking.
That's what they want overseas too.
And you know what I want? A friend that breeds dogs that drops it just a little too early and wants to get rid of it to a good home.
That would be great.
That's the next dog.
I would take one of Josh Miller's dropouts tomorrow.
All I'm going to do is call around to breeders and be like, hey, do you ever get rid of like really talented dogs that just aren't quite
got
right?
a little idiosyncrasy.
But you want them to go to a good home, free to a good home? I'm in.
Like they get in the garbage too often and you just can't tolerate it anymore.
Yeah. Like, what's your favorite breed? Whatever you're getting rid of. That's really talented.
Right? Because I know you're so fussy that you would only keep the best of the best.
Yeah.
And we all know that the best of the best, it's all, I don't know how many generations back you get when you get a puppy, but it's certainly a couple, 3 generations. You can get,
Yeah, I think it's 3 to 4. I can't
that
remember.
you can really get a trait, or maybe undesirable trait. But going forward, some of these interviews might be a little bit more performance based. It's a little bit more. It's got to be someone who's vested in the breed. So down the road, it might be somebody who maybe doesn't breed, but has connections with breeders, like Josh. Let's say, Josh breeds at home, but let's say somebody who's been with a breed for a long, long time and has always gone to a 1 or 2 breed. You've met them guys. Like,
Oh, yeah.
They've never bred their own dogs, never got involved with a whole lot of stuff, but they've had a breed that they are never going to change. Like, what would you like to see, like, an episode? Is there anything, like, if you had a wish list right now, like, oh, Ron, if you could do a behind a dog on this, or this activity, anything come to mind?
I don't know. It's a non-sporting breed, but I'd be curious. Maybe some of the old shepherds or something along that lines of some of the things they do with whether it be police or military training or anything of that lines.
Yeah.
I'm probably a little off from some of the people, but I may not sound like it, but when I started in dog training, I use that term loosely.
Right.
I just didn't know what I didn't know. And now that I have a whole bunch of knowledge of what not to do, I'm a little bit more mature, not personally, but in my training methods.
Right.
To where I'm actually curious how they're getting results, or like you said with an agility dog.
Like, how do they do
I mean, they are taking some animals, and I don't care that they're non-sporting dogs.
Right. No, me neither.
They're doing things with them that are just incredible.
Right.
I don't think it's a problem. Genetically, you can find the right bird dog to find a bird. Or retrieve a duck. I don't think that's that hard.
No.
The hard part is the yard work, always. And what are they doing for success, and what are they doing at early stages that we're missing the boat on
That's great. That's
by the
great.
small things that we exercise because we go to a club, which clubs are great.
Based on what you said, let's say that work in the Shepherd and Malinois, it's called Schutzen, I think. is
Yes.
The
Yep.
work, right? I'd love to interview a breeder and find out they're as fussy as Nancy Beth. You know what I mean? Like, what are they looking for? I mean, it can't be just a dog that bites. Right? I mean,
Right, yeah.
I mean, that's what they do when they do the That's like saying, I want a pointing dog. I sure hope he points. Well, god dang it! I mean,
If they need a dog that bites, I've met plenty. They don't.
But yeah, that's a good idea. Get somebody who's bred the German Shepherds or the protection dogs, and see their process. That's a good suggestion.
Another one that would be fun too is like the Dachshunds, when they do the earth trials, the wiener dogs,
Oh yeah,
and they go through all the holes and they're digging for things and they do the trials.
And what are those people looking for when they're breeding a dog?
Yeah, because they got smooth coat,
Are they
wire
stacking
hair.
them up like Nancy Beth, or are they saying, "Get in the hole"?
Are they tying a rat to their collar with their little and just making them mad? I don't know.
Might be.
And maybe it's because of where I'm at in my dog life that I'm just kind of curious about what didn't I apply.
Yeah.
And I don't know. In all fairness to clubs, they're basically giving you 80% of what you need. I'm digging into the 20% that people don't really pay attention to or have been exposed to.
Yeah, and that's kind of what this series is going to be like. We want to get into a little bit of minutia of,
Well, you have a guy down the road.
because they all come from a breeder, right? Unless you want to be a breeder, every dog purchase you make, there's got to be some background in there. What are they looking for in their dogs?
Well, so with the German system, when they would come over here from Germany and judge, some of these judges would see things in what I would call a snap judgment,
Yeah.
and they were spot on. How did they know that?
Yeah.
And then you have a guy down the road who has one of the most successful coonhound dogs in the entire world.
Frank Giddings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that man grab a hound dog and know exactly whether it's worth keeping or worth getting rid of? And I'll just say he's going to place it at a nice home. You know,
Right.
I'll let everyone feel
Right.
good about where they
Well-
go. But how does he know that? They just know within minutes in all the breedings that they've done. How do you glean that info?
Right. What do they see when they see that litter of pups? Or do they wait till their first? Do they give them 6 weeks in the field or 6 months in the field? You know, that's a great one. Now, I'm actually working with a friend of mine who, you know, Frank's son lives right next door to me.
Right, yep.
And we're like cordial neighbors. Hey, how you doing? Hey, bud. You know, we don't shoot the shit. But a friend of mine that worked at the Road Commission, Carl Johnson, he says, Ron, I know I can get you to interview him, but you're going to have to come hunting with us first. We're going to have to go coon hunting. Have you ever coon hunted?
Yeah, your mind will be blown. And I'll save it for another day. But so I got a guy I work with. He's great. He's got bear dogs and cat dogs. Mm-hmm. And he won't coon hunt or anything. To him, that's running trash because his dogs are very specific.
Right.
But he used to hunt with Frank with his dad
Yeah.
way back.
Yeah.
And some of the stories they tell, they're an interesting group. And I don't mean that in a negative way.
Right.
I mean, it
Well,
was...
let's get him on the podcast.
Adam, we'll have to get permission from his wife, but I'll ask him.
Oh.
I
I mean, a houndsman that actually has to get permission from his wife, that's not normal.
They're always a little on the edge. You say that's not normal. Sometimes they just do and not ask, you know. But
So that's two good ideas. And, like, look at I've always been fascinated watching agility dogs.
well, so have I, because they go in and out of tunnels. They go, the things they do. and the cooperation level. That's
Right.
incredible because they are watching their
we've
hand.
we've had dogs. You couldn't get them to go through a tunnel if you worked at it for a week.
No.
All they want to do is go that way.
Yep.
And what are they doing with their young puppies? You know what I'm saying? That'd be interesting. What do they do? Does a litter of border collies have a little mini football stadium full of tunnels? And but you'll see it with corgis. You'll see it with gold. You know, they can all do it. What are those people looking for?
Well, I think too, and I don't know that you'll get there, and a lot of this is non-sporting. And obviously I love Labradors, but I don't care if it's a golden, a lab, whatever. When they get into cadaver dogs or drug dogs,
That's another one.
what the gear switching. So I understand I'm not trying to buy a sporting dog that's a cadaver dog.
Right.
But what are they looking at? Because that mental stability, there's got to be a way to pick
That's-
up on those traits.
That's the key.
And I don't know at my age now whether I care if a dog is finding birds on a prey drive or just because it's smart enough and knows that that's what I want it to do. It's the same outcome.
Right.
Except the second one might be a whole lot more cooperative. And you might not see a whole bunch of birds fly like 100 yards down the field you can't shoot.
You never had that happen, have you?
Never. They've all been amazing.
I remember Zygon, South Dakota, and this guy gave us this feel. He says, I haven't harvested this. You've ever been behind a harvester out west?
Oh, yeah. When they're just flying in every direction.
And they boil backwards. They
Yeah.
get up and they go right behind the damn tractor. And they lay right back down to get more corn, right?
Yep.
This guy said, he goes, I haven't harvested this field yet. So you guys shoot straight, put some blockers on the end. He says, have some fun. And Zygon looked like he went through like a 14 combine Don Deere. Every pheasant came out of that field, and we never got a shot at it. But he was having fun.
And that's what it's really about, right?
It's all about fun. But it's fun, but I always feel bad. Like, you've met people that got the dog. You're like, oh my God, how did you pick this dog? Did the breeder help them? Did they make an impulse buy? Did they read one article in a periodical? Because sometimes you've met them at the grounds over the years.
Oh, yeah.
You're almost like, what were you thinking?
Yeah, I almost
So-
want to look at them and take their dog. You don't need this anymore. It's
Right.
not because I want it, but this is a bad pairing.
This is bad. This is you're not ready for this. This isn't ready for you, and I'll do something with this.
You're
dog.
drinking bourbon and eggs. Let's get you a mimosa. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to work for you.
So hopefully this series will, like, definitely educate, somewhat entertain, and kind of leave a mark on, like, let's highlight what it takes to. It's a big thing. You get a dog, you got it for, you can just say 12 years, I mean, basically,
Yeah.
and you could have 12 years of pain, or 12 years of, like.
Well, that was the old way of doing it. If you went down to any test event and said, well, hey, what's your goal? Well, they'll be a family companion, but I'm going to test them and take them to a high level.
Yeah.
So if I didn't know you well enough, I'm going to, okay, here's my low cooperation, high drive dog. And all you got to do is it's easier to take it out than put it in. Have fun with this puppy and good luck. I think some of the things in tips and tricks that looks like are going to be exposed, I've only seen one episode,
Right.
is I can actually potentially apply some of this knowledge to some of the pups I go look at when I get pick a litter and they
Yeah.
give me 3. Instead of looking at the other 5 to 7 and picking the wrong one,
Or the one that's taking out
I'll
the
take
goats.
the 3. And the series isn't just about picking a puppy.
No, it's
It just
not.
happened that there was some stuff in this one that gave me ideas about what to look for.
We did a deep dive into that process, and every episode won't be like that. There'll be episodes, let's say maybe with Frank Giddings someday, and like it'll be more about. He's not known for selling dogs. He's known for owning good dogs.
Yeah, and I know
Now,
Frank well enough. He's not keeping a dog that doesn't do what he wants it to do.
Right. And he's known for dogs that everybody wants to breed to.
Yeah. And he's made piles. Even though he wears old jeans and dirty penny loafers, you wouldn't know it.
Who wants some penny loafers besides Frank Giddings?
Toughest guy I know.
Well, I hope Frank don't listen to this one.
Yeah.
And he's like 80, isn't he?
80 something.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I've got to get that done. I will be so regretful if all of a sudden he's not out there anymore.
Oh, his knowledge is unbelievable, and
Yeah.
that's
And there's got to be the guy like that with the lion dogs, the bear dogs.
yep.
You know, they're those guys, and that's what we're looking for. Interview those people, like a podcast with a long form conversation. It doesn't have commercials, and it's not. We can't hold it to 22 minutes or 44 minutes like a show. We might have some that last an hour and a half. We might have some that last 30 minutes. Depends on the subject, but I just want to like do a deep dive into what we're just nuts about.
Well, and it's yours, so you can watch it as many minutes at a time as you want to, whether
Yeah.
it's all the way through or if you have to pause. And
I doze off sometimes.
you asked me too. I'm curious. I'm not saying you have to go this direction, but Newfoundlands. How do you get that dog to jump out of a helicopter? Is that just something they do?
Do they kick them out or do they jump?
Yeah, right. And how did you pick that dog? Because some won't even walk on grading. Some dogs.
Right.
You know, I took the ferry over to Wisconsin for one of the tests, multiple tests.
Yeah.
And I walked my short hair right across the grating, metal grating. Mm-hmm. Well, you can see right down to the water, and the
Right.
guy's like, that's incredible. Most dogs won't even walk on that stuff. And
So what
I didn't
was
want to tell him the truth. If you beat them enough with the Nazi love whip, as we used to call it, they'll heal anywhere. But there's got to be a better way.
Right.
So, I don't know. I just think about all that cool stuff,
Yeah.
and it's a little bit different for sure. It's not just.
It's going to be fun. I hope people enjoy it.
I think so.
And I like the fact that your wife could watch it and be like, "No, I'm going to get back and watch the next episode of Madam Secretary."
You know what's embarrassing? I don't even mind telling your listeners this. So every time a puppy came on screen, I look at my wife and she's like, "Oh, little puppy," and then all of a sudden I'm like, "Who doesn't love a puppy?" And I'm like, "What am I talking this way for?" It turns
your
out
voice-
I fall into the same trap everyone
Your voice
else
went up
does.
3 octaves. Well, there is some damn cute puppies on this.
Yeah, Jen told me she wants to bottle feed a puppy.
All right. With that, well, you were bottle fed, weren't you?
I don't know. Couldn't tell
I
you.
was bottle fed.
Were you?
Oh yeah. That wasn't popular back in the 50s.
Maybe that's why I like drinking out of a bottle all the time.
Love you, Dave.
See ya.